Maybe you're not lazy, and maybe you don't lack discipline as much as you think. Maybe you've just never truly started. You know a lot. You've read, you've watched, planned. You understand what a good habit looks like, an ideal morning, an organized life. But day after day, everything stays in your head. Not because you don't want to act, but because you're waiting for something to happen first, waiting to feel more ready, more disciplined, waiting for the right moment. And while you wait, life quietly moves on. There's a truth few people say out loud. Many don't fail because they lack a plan, but because they're addicted to planning. They use preparation to avoid the discomfort of starting, to avoid doing things imperfectly, to avoid looking like a beginner. But the path of real warriors has never begun with perfection. Samurai didn't wait for their minds to be calm before drawing the sword. They drew the sword, and the act itself brought the mind to stillness. In this video, we'll talk about a reversed approach, not to help you build a pretty plan, but to help you begin today, even while things are messy, unclear, and unfinished. If you are at a point in life where you want more discipline, but don't want hollow motivation, don't want to be pushed in becoming someone else, you can stay here. Life philosophy doesn't teach you how to get rich fast. It doesn't promise a perfect version of yourself. We talk only about the fundamentals, presence, quiet action, and the long road each person must walk alone. If this resonates with you, you may subscribe to the channel, not to follow us, but to remind yourself to return to this path when you start to drift. Now let's talk about habits, but not in the way you heard before. Creating a truly effective daily habit is not about how well you plan. It lies in the moment you take action before you feel ready. This is where most people get it wrong. We're taught that to be disciplined you need motivation, to maintain habits you need inspiration. To stay consistent you need a perfect system, but reality works in the opposite direction. No habit is born from inspiration. No discipline is born from planning. All of these things appear only after you've acted long enough. People don't become consistent because they have habits. They have habits because they kept doing something on days they didn't want to. That is the samurai mindset, not rigidity, not iron willpower, but the ability to start even when the mind hesitates. Samurai don't wait for fear to disappear. They act, and fear retreats on its own. The most important thing to understand from the start is this. An effective habit does not begin with optimizing your schedule. It begins by removing conditions. Know when I have more time. Know when I feel motivated. Know when things settle down. There is only one question. Can I start right now? And in 90% of cases, the answer is yes, even if it's just 5 minutes, even if you do it poorly, even if it's not the right way, because the first action is not meant to produce results. It has only one purpose, to break the state of inertia. Once you're in motion, everything else adjusts itself. Clarity comes after action. Focus arrives while you're doing. Discipline appears when you no longer have to decide whether to act. In the next section, we'll talk about the most dangerous trap in building habits. Why intelligent, well-informed people often fail more than those who keep things simple. And why samurai always choose to begin in chaos instead of waiting for perfection. Part Mode. The trap of the intelligent mind. The people who struggle the most with building habits are often ones who lack knowledge. Quite the opposite, they're the ones who read a lot, think deeply, see the entire picture, and because they see too clearly, they don't move. Intelligent people always see the risks. They see where they might fail. They see where they're not good enough yet. They see too many possible paths, so they to choose. Then they stop again to optimize. Then they stop once more, waiting for a greater sense of certainty. They call it caution. But in truth, it's paralysis. Here is the uncomfortable reality. Understanding does not lead to action, and action does not require complete understanding. Many people believe, when I understand deeply enough, I'll do it right. But the truth is, you only understand deeply after you've done it wrong enough times. Samurai didn't learn the sword by imagining perfect strikes. They swung the blade, missed, then adjusted. Every scratch was a lesson. Every failure was a correction. Modern people are different. We fear mistakes, we wasting time. We fear looking incompetent. We choose a lighter pain, the pain of not starting. Few people realize this. Inaction is also a choice, and it comes with its own cost. Every week you spend preparing more is a week without experience. Every month you spend researching further is a month without real-world friction. And one day you realize you know a lot but can do very little. Samurai didn't have the luxury. They were not allowed to stand still. Not because they were braver, but because they understood a basic truth. Skill is not formed in safety. Skill is forged in chaos, in friction, in imperfect attempts. And that is why the samurai method doesn't begin with building habits. It begins by destroying the illusion that you must be ready first. In the next part, we'll move into the core of this method, the principle of reversal that turns small, messy actions into habits that last over time. The principle of reversal against modern instincts. Most of what you've heard about habits follows the same direction. Set clear goals, design a reasonable schedule, optimize your environment, create strong motivation. The samurai method goes the opposite way. It doesn't ask who you want to become. It asks, can you start right now? Because goals don't create action. Action creates the person. This is the first principle of reversal. Don't wait for the right state in order to act. Act so the state can appear. You don't need to feel focused to begin. Focus arrives while you're doing. You don't need to feel discipline. Discipline is a sensation that appears after many times of working even when you don't want to. Samurai don't sit and wait for the mind to settle. They let the body move first, and the mind is forced to follow. The second principle. Remove all conditions. Most habits fail not because they are too difficult, but because they contain too many if. If I have enough energy today, if I'm not too busy, if my mood is right, if I have enough time. Every if is an exit door. The samurai method shuts all of those doors. It doesn't ask, is today ideal? It asks only, am I doing it today? Even just a little. Even if it's done poorly. Because doing it badly is still better than not doing it at all. The third principle. Adjust while in motion. Modern people want to be right from the start. Samurai accept being wrong in order to move forward. When you're standing still, you have no data, no feedback, no reality, only imaginative feedback. Action back creates adjustment. Adjustment repeated long enough becomes habit. No need to design it in advance. A real habit is not something you think up. It's something that emerges naturally after a period of consistent action. Like the body finding its own breathing rhythm. No one plans how to breathe correctly. You just breathe. And the body adjusts itself. In the next part, we'll talk about something very practical. How to begin when you're tired, unmotivated, and your mind is full of resistance. Because that is when real habits are truly formed. Part but when you don't want to. And why that moment matters most. Most people only begin when they feel like it, when they have energy, when inspiration is present, when they feel they're in a good state. But habits are not born on those days. Habits are born on the days you're tired, on mornings when your mind feels heavy, in moments when you just want to skip it. That's where everything splits into two paths. The first path, listen to the feeling. Tell yourself it's okay to take a day off, and then tomorrow becomes another day off. The second path. No arguing, no convincing for reasons. Just stand up and begin. Samurai don't wait for feelings to agree, they act. Feelings are forced to follow. This may sound harsh, but in truth, it's deeply human because the brain is designed to conserve energy. It resists anything new, not because it's bad, but because it's unfamiliar. If you wait until the brain stops resisting, you'll wait forever. The samurai method doesn't try to persuade the brain. It goes around it by making everything small enough that the brain doesn't have time to object. 5 minutes, one step, not to achieve results, only to create movement. Once you're in motion, something strange happens. The heaviness begins to dissolve. Focus appears little by little. The feeling of I don't want to doesn't disappear completely, but it no longer controls you. This is a crucial point. You don't need to defeat your emotions. You just need to stop letting them decide for you. Samurai don't ask, am I in the mood today? They ask, what is the first step? And then they take it. In the next part, we'll talk about the simplest, yet most underestimated, starting ritual. How to shorten the distance between intention and action until it's almost zero. Part 1, the starting ritual. Shortening the distance between intention and action. The most dangerous distance is not between goals and results. It's the distance between intention and action. You can have the best intentions, but leave even a small gap and the brain stepses. It starts asking questions. It begins to doubt. It offers a more reasonable alternative, and that's the end of it. Samurai understood this deeply, so they didn't allow gaps to exist. They had a very simple ritual. When intention appears, action begins in further thinking. No perfection, no delay. This is the core of the samurai starting ritual. Begin within minutes of the intention arising. Not to do it well, just to do. Don't need a full session. You only need the first touch. That touch tells the brain, we're doing this now. And once the brain realizes that the work has already started, it stops resisting. This is why so many people struggle to begin, but don't find it that hard to continue. The difficulty isn't in the process, it's in the moment of starting. That's why this ritual must stay simple. No checklist, no lengthy preparation. Only one rule. When it's time, touch the task. Pick up the pen, step into position. Open the document you were working on. You don't need to continue. Just touch it. That small movement is the strongest signal you can send to the nervous system. It says, we are no longer in preparation mode. From there, focus follows. If you try to create motivation first, you're reversing the process. Samurai don't create motivation, they create a start. In the next part, we'll talk about something that often happens after the first few days. You start wanting to optimize, to track, to red sign. And why that's a sign you're about to fall back into the old trap. Part 9, when you want to optimize, and why that's a dangerous sign. After a few days of taking action, something very familiar appears. You start wanting to do better, to track things, to adjust your schedule, to optimize the process. It sounds positive, but this is exactly the point where many people return to the starting line. Because optimization often does come from real necessity, but from desire to control. When things are still messy, you feel exposed, uncertain whether you are on the right path. Planning more, rewriting systems, drawing up new structures creates a sense of safety. But that sense is deceptive. Samurai don't optimize, they optimize in motion. They fix only one thing, the thing they just did. No long reviews, no evaluating the entire system, no comparing to an ideal. Just one small question. What got in the way most last time? And they fix exactly that. Then they continue. Any attempt to optimize with enough real-world friction is nothing but imagination. And imagination does create discipline. If you notice yourself thinking more than doing, writing more than acting, adjusting systems more than adjusting yourself, that's a sign you're going back to where you started. The Samurai method sets a very clear boundary. No planning far into the future, no big picture evaluation. Only observe and adjust immediately after action. All correct structures emerge after action, not before. Sustainable habits are not designed, they are sharpened. In the next part, we'll talk about a crucial truth. Habits aren't maintained by willpower, they're maintained by momentum. And how samurai create momentum without forcing themselves. Part 1, momentum. What keeps a habit alive? Many people believe habits are sustained by willpower, but willpower is fragile. It gets depleted. It fluctuates with emotion. It's unreliable. Samurai don't rely on willpower, they rely on momentum. What is momentum? It's when action happens without the need to decide. When starting is no longer an internal debate. And this doesn't come from forcing yourself harder. It comes from making the action too easy not to do. The samurai method doesn't ask, do I have enough determination today? It asks, is it possible for me not to do it today? When the action is small enough, the answer is usually no. Fine movement. 1 page, 1 paragraph. Not enough to exhaust scare you, but enough to maintain motion. And once motion exists, the brain begins to adapt, it registers. This is something we do every day. No positive motion required. No big motivation needed. Only continuity. Samurai understand this. Missing 1 day doesn't destroy a habit, but missing 2 days creates a dangerous gap. That gap allows thinking to return, doubt to return, planning to return. So they protect momentum at all costs. Even on the worst days, they still do a very small version. They don't let the chain break. They don't let the body forget the rhythm. This is the key point. You don't build habits to gain motivation. You build habits so you don't need motivation. When momentum is strong enough, you no longer ask, am I doing this today? That question disappears. In the next part, we'll talk about the moment when habits begin to change you from within. When action stops feeling like effort and starts becoming identity. Part B. When a habit becomes identity. At the beginning, action always feels forced. You have to remind yourself. You have to push through an invisible resistance. But if you don't quit, something quiet begins to happen. Action stops being something you do. It becomes something you are. This is the moment a habit moves to another level. You no longer say, I'm trying to work out. You simply say, I'm someone who works out. Not because you're better, but because your body and mind have adapted to it. A samurai doesn't ask each morning whether he should pick up the sword. That question never exists. Picking up the sword is the default state. This is why sustainable habits don't require motivation. They are protected by identity. You don't need motivation to brush your teeth, no inspiration to get dressed, no determination to breathe. Because these are no longer choices. The problem for many people is this. They try to change behavior without staying with the behavior long enough for identity to change. They want fast results. They want the feeling of I'm different now. But identity does change through thought. It changes through repetition. Every time you act when you don't want to, you send a very clear message to yourself. This is who I'm becoming. No affirmations needed, no declarations required. Just continue. Samurai don't build identity with words. They build it through quiet chains of action that no one sees. In the next part, we'll talk about a critical moment. When you stumble, when the chain breaks, and how to return without destroying yourself. Part time when you stumble, and how to return. No one maintains a haver without interruption. Samurai don't either. They get wounded. They fall. They miss differences in who is more perfect but who returns faster. Modern people often do the opposite. They miss one day, then they blame themselves. Then they wait to feel good enough to start again. And while they wait, they drift farther away. The samurai method does allow this. There is no concept of starting over properly. There is only continuing from where you are. No wiping the slate clean, no new plan, no promises to yourself. Just return to the smallest possible act step, even out of wrath, even imperfect, because the most dangerous thing is not stumbling. It's standing still and thinking too long about the fall. Samurai don't sit and analyze why they fell before standing up. They stand up first. Analysis comes later if needed, and often isn't needed at all. One crucial thing to remember: never negotiate with failure. Don't turn it into a story. The more you replay it, the more power it gains. Let it be just a moment. Then move forward. The people who keep habits the longest are not those who never fail, but those who don't turn mistakes into a sentence. In the next part, we'll talk about the final stage, when habits stop being a personal effort and become a way of life. Part G, when the habit becomes the path. At some point, you stop thinking about measurement. You don't track it. You don't ask whether it's working. You simply live. This is a level few people talk about, because it isn't exciting. There's no achievement to display, no feeling of I optimize myself. But this is the true samurai spirit. They don't live to train. They train in order to live. When action has become part of daily life, you no longer need big goals. You only need to remain present in what you are doing. Zen calls this doing without thinking that you are doing. No forcing, just being there up. At this level, discipline is no longer discipline. It is natural, like water flowing downward. No effort required. You do your work. You don't need to ask why. Not because you've lost motivation, because you no longer need it. Many people search for the perfect habit to change their lives. But warriors understand this. Life is changed by repeated actions done in silence. No one witnesses them. No one praises them. Only you know that you didn't run away. And that is enough. In the final part, we'll return to the beginning. You right now, and the smallest step you can take after this video ends. If you've listened this far, you're probably not looking for a new trick. You just want to stop standing still. You've already understood this. There is no perfect moment waiting ahead of you. No ideal state you must reach before you begin. There is only this moment, and one very small choice, not changing your entire life, not designing a new system, not writing down 10 goals, just one action you can take right after this video ends. It might be standing up, it might be opening a document, it might be picking up something you've been avoiding for days. Do it for 5 minutes, no more. Not to prove anything, just to break the silence. Samurai don't wait for confidence. They step forward and confidence follows. If you fall back into old habits, don't hate yourself. Just return to the first step. This path is not for those seeking good feelings. It's for those willing to do what's right even when no one is watching. And if you're still here, you might be one of them. It's not planning that saves you, not motivation then. Only small actions repeated in silence every day. The samurai path does begin when you're ready. It begins when you step, right now. This path is not for the crowd. It won't give you instant excitement. It won't turn you into someone else in a few days. But if you walk it long enough, it changes how you stand before life. Less promising, more real action. Life philosophy was created for those who don't need more motivation. Only a quiet space to remind themselves to return to the fundamentals. If you want to stay in this rhythm of living, you're welcome to stay with the channel. Not to consume more, but to remember less. Fewer reasons to delay. What remains is the work that needs to be done and the moment to do it. We won't move fast, but we won't stand still. And like all real paths, it always begins with one very small step. When you need to,